Welcome to Classical Conversations on FM 91. My name is Mary Claire Murphy, and it is my great pleasure today to be speaking with the artist BLKBOK. BLKBOK is a new classical composer, pianist extraordinaire. So he combines different elements of the classical music tradition with hip hop, pop, and rap, and a bunch of different genres. Also a self-described lover of humans, I saw. So that's awesome. After this conversation, you're definitely going to want to check out more of his music. So the name to search, BLKBOK, is spelled BLKBOK. BLKBOK, welcome to FM 91. Thank you for taking some time to speak with us.
Hey, Mary Claire. So great to be here.
So let's start with your name, actually, since we were talking about it. How did you come up with BLKBOK?
Well, of course, Johann Sebastian, who we all know is one of the godfathers of what we do. So a quick, nod to him. But one of the things I wanted to do was kind of keep to my hip hop tradition. I mean, I was born and raised in Detroit on the West Side, and I kind of wanted a rap name. So
yeah.
My father always says this phrase. He says, "Everything will be okay, but you got to be okay with everything." And I think that really meant something to speak to Black culture and saying, that no matter what happens, everything will be okay.
Wow. Okay, so it's tying a lot of things together, the classical plus hip hop and rap plus a memory of your father.
Yeah.
So you've definitely put some thought into that. That's wonderful. And I wanted to ask also about your logo, which is on your hat right now. And for our listeners who maybe can't see it right now, I'll describe it, but it's 4 white keys with the black keys in between. So a little segment of keyboard plus what looks like a little part of a key turned on its side in the bottom right-hand corner. So could you tell us about the intention behind your logo or what that means for you?
Yeah, it was just, in speaking about the logo and creating it, we just wanted something that showed strength and just like solidarity and just a feeling of togetherness and empowerment. So the keyboard mixed with what could be perceived as a city skyline, and then ultimately a fist.
Okay. Yeah, because that's interesting. When I first saw it, it kind of popped out as me as like, it reminds me of a fist. So that's really cool. But it's interesting to hear the element of the city skyline too.
Yeah.
So tell us more about Detroit and your childhood, maybe some about your family. What kind of environment did you grow up in?
Detroit was a great place to grow up in. I mean, I always say if you're a musician, there's no better city to grow up in than Detroit, because there's so much music and history and culture, and the community there is so thick, and it's like a rich, palpable sort of clay putty that you have to kind of go through.
Yeah.
I come from a family of musicians on my mother's side and entertainers. I have an uncle who's a saxophonist, another one who was a tap dancer with Gregory Hines. My grandfather has a music note on the Hall of Fame in Memphis. So as a kid, I just naturally was drawn to music. I studied from about age 4 to 16 with a wonderful classical piano instructor named Thomas Schwartz. And then I discovered jazz and the jazz community, which in Detroit is very much the Motown community transformed. Like these musicians that played all this Motown music were actually really great musicians outside of the Motown studios. And I got a chance to hang with them and just, be around and learn not only just music, but life, which was great. And I mean, Detroit's just one of the most awesome cities to learn music and be in a music community.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like music is in your blood, and you've been surrounded by a lot of variety, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
After you flew the coop, then you struck out on your own. Where did your career take you from there?
From Detroit, it took me to a small Black college in Daytona Beach, Bethune-Cookman College. Well, at the time, college, now university. And from there, it took me to Full Sail, which I started, that's when I really got into production and MIDI and being an engineer. And I got a degree in being a studio engineer.
Wow.
So I had no intentions of really playing classical music for a living.
Yeah.
I was going to do everything but, but it just so happened that, somehow when music calls you, you have to answer the call, and what's on the other line, you don't know what it is, and you just have to accept.
Yeah. Was there any pivotal moment of like, okay, now I know I'm going to be a professional musician, or did you just kind of like ease your way into it?
There was a professional moment. It was around, I was about age 15, and I did my first out of town gig. Just happened to be with Martha and the Vandellas. One of my instructors, Teddy Harris, was their musical director for so many years that he couldn't do this particular gig. So he sent me, his protege. And a lot of things happened on that trip. I pretty much, that's when I realized that I wanted to be a touring musician for professionally. I kind of, and I'll tell you the truth, in that one thing I got offered, drugs, sex. I saw a fight between musicians happen in this guy's B&B, and they tore it up. It was completely crazy. And at the end of it all, Martha called me into a room and she says, "Baby, I'm so sorry you had to see all that." And she handed me an envelope full of money.
Oh my gosh.
And from that point, I was just like, I'm in. I want to do
We're doing this.
You're doing this all the time.
Oh my gosh. What a story.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you have since toured with a lot of different artists. I was reading on your bio, Rihanna, John Mayer, Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Oh man. My first tour was with Justin Timberlake on his first solo album, Justified. And it was a co-headlining tour with Christina Aguilera. And just to have that experience be the first experience, was wild. Like, I didn't know that touring on that level was what it was until I was actually there in it. The thing that was cool was that I was able to gain a lot of experience from what, like, a professional like Justin Timberlake and Christina Aguilera, what their day is, what their lifestyle is, like, how do they expect, or what do they expect when they take the stage? And through all those experiences and all the folks that I've toured with, that's one of the things that I could say they all have in common, is a certain professionalism when it comes to their performance, and a certain eye for particulars when it comes to actually what an audience is receiving from them.
Yeah. Well, it seems like I've watched some of the videos of you performing, and it seems like you really know how to work the crowd too. Is that something that you kind of learn from touring with them as well? Just how to engage with people during a performance? Absolutely.
Absolutely. They have, I will say, particularly John Mayer, Rihanna, and Justin Timberlake have this great skill at just bringing people into their circle, into their bubble. Yeah. And then when you're in their bubble, they can do whatever and say, and they take you on this great adventure ride. And that's why they are who they are,
Yeah. They get to be friends with everybody.
Yeah.
That's really nice. So, gosh, you've done so many different things. When you look back on your career up to this point, what would you say are some of the most memorable moments that you could pull out? I guess personally or professionally.
Oh, most memorable moments. The times I was broke in between tours, probably.
Oh no. That would be memorable.
Yeah, those were some of the most memorable moments. But one of the things that's wonderful about having a down moment, and this is what I've come to understand now, is that it allows you to have a story or a reference that you can tell later on. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. Is right after I finished with Cirque du Soleil, I went through about 2 years of depression. Now, at the time, I didn't know what it was. I just knew I didn't feel well. But it allows me now to speak on what it means to feel a low or a lull in your life. And me being able to tell that story through composition is a great superpower now. I think that's one of the things that my career has been. I always say I've been on the extreme roller coaster. The highs have been extremely high and the lows have been extremely low. but it
Mhm.
allows me to tell the story of everything in between those extremes.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we definitely appreciate you sharing that with us too, because I think sometimes we look at to a star like you and we think, you know, from the outside looking in, it kind of looks like rainbows and sunshine and kind of all the grand, glorious time on stage, but we don't always get the backstage look
Yeah.
of what's going on
Yeah.
in your life too.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, the COVID-19 pandemic has been a really big struggle, and we've been feeling a lot of those feelings, especially during shutdown, and feeling that isolation. What were you doing during quarantine, and were you composing? What was your musical life like then?
So right before quarantine, I got a call from my, at the time, publisher, Billy Mann, and he said, "Hey, dude, you should do a solo piano album." And on the phone, I literally said, "Dude, what does that mean? I don't even know what that means right now. I've been touring with bands. I've been in the studio making beats and working with, you know, rappers and R&B singers. And like, you want me to be alone? What do you mean?" You know? So me being as respectful as I am to him, you know, when he says, here's an idea, I always follow that idea to the end and just see if I can make it work.
Yeah.
So I started in a program called the Creators Workshop, who is hosted by Seth Godin, who's marketing extraordinaire, book publisher, book writer and everything. But Seth's awesome. And it was 100-day commitment to write every day.
Wow.
With accountability in front of an audience. So there are some other 350 students all over the world who are seeing this work as I post it daily. It was the first time I've done that, which was terrifying at first.
Yeah.
But it taught me what it means to be accountable to an audience.
Interesting.
But it happened maybe when I started the program is maybe 20 days before lockdown started.
Okay.
So, and at that time in my life, I was in a position where I had one thought. My thought was, I want to wake up every day, roll over, and start playing piano.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ironic that at that time I had been through a bad breakup in LA, moved to Vegas with my best friend and lived in his house. And there was a keyboard right next to the bed. Mm-hmm. So luckily I was with family during the lockdown, and I was in a room with a piano and had committed to 100 days of writing. So my album Black Book was written during the lockdown, during the pandemic, over a series of 121 consecutive days.
Wow, that's amazing that you had the discipline to write consistently for that many days. And what happened on the days where you had the bit of writer's block?
Okay,
got to push through it, or what happens then?
This is such a great topic, because one of the things that happens in this program is there's a prompt that says writer's block is a myth. Mm-hmm. And us being writers, we go, yeah, right. And then he explains, Seth explains that writer's block is simply the fear of writing something that is not significant. It's literally, you think that you're not going to write something that's cool, so you don't write anything. And, you know, even now that I've been through that workshop and coached that workshop twice, I now teach students that it's just like it's like water at the beginning of the summer. When you turn it on, it's junk and gunk that comes out first before you get clear water. So we see that junk as writer's block, but it's not really. It's just a clearing of the bad ideas to let the muse find you, to let the good ideas come to you. Yeah. So more than anything, you show up for work every day. Writers write. So you show up. And if you show up and you write something, if you write for 15 minutes and you write trash, you're just like, well, I did it.
That's an accomplishment in and of itself.
That's an accomplishment in and of itself. And, you know, I've had times where I've done writing, and then I'll post it, and then I'll post 20 poop emojis across the screen. Just like, that's what happened today. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah. But someone in the workshop would say, you know, that thing at 15 seconds I like that.
Oh, there's a good seed there, maybe. Yeah.
Right. So I go back and I listen to what's happening in 15 seconds the next day. And I'm like, oh, wow, that really was a little magical nugget. I mean, it was 2 seconds, but it was a 2-second, golden nugget. And then I take that 2 seconds, extract it, and then something beautiful grows from that. So writer's block is a myth.
Okay. And that water analogy really helps me too. That makes a lot of sense. And it makes sense that we sometimes as artists kind of get overly judgmental about what we're trying to create. And the beauty is the process itself.
Absolutely.
And so tell us more about that album. What are the songs on it? If you could give us a little rundown of some program notes.
Okay. There's one song called The Hustle Is Real. It was written during that program, and maybe about day 60, 65. At that point, I realized that we had all been there together, hustling for all this time. Yeah. And I wrote this kind of upbeat, up-tempo. And you'll hear in that piece, the main melody comes in, and then it kind of varies, and then it comes back, and then it varies, and then it comes again, and it kind of goes into a really weird place, but then it comes back, and then it varies.
Okay.
It's literally me describing what's happening in this program, which is me waking up every day with all these people doing our work, go to sleep, wake up, do our work, go to sleep. Good. So it's just, and at the end of the piece, it was just like, the one statement that sticks out is, man, the hustle is real. Like, it's so real. Like, what we're doing, this is crazy. Most people would look at us like we're nuts, but we're here every day showing up.
Yep. Just like you say, showing up for work. What other highlights can you draw out from your album, Black Book?
There's a piece called Amalia's Ocean. It was the first time I really understood what accountability to an audience meant. There was another student named Maria Cannon and her mother. And Maria would come into the kitchen and she would say, hey, she would listen to some of the music that I wrote. And her mother said, wow, this is great piano music. Who is this? And she said, well, this is one of the students. And it became a ritual for them in a time where they were not necessarily seeing eye to eye. So every morning they would come in and listen to my dailies and have coffee together. And that was the first time that I realized that what I was doing was significant to someone else. And I can remember going to I laid down maybe about 11 o'clock one night, and I realized I hadn't written anything, and I jumped out of the bed and I said, oh my gosh, Maria and Mama Cannon need their music for tomorrow. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to write something so they can continue in their ritual. So after I finished this particular piece, I had no title. I asked everyone, hey, I'm up for titles. Maria says, hey, it sounds like an ocean. She says, and while I was saying that, my mom from the other room said, he should name it after me. So I said, what's your mom's first name? Hoping that it wasn't anything really weird or crazy. And she said, Amalia. And I said, wow, Amalia's Ocean.
It's beautiful.
That's the name of this piece. Yeah.
Absolutely. Would you say that's pretty typical of your process, that you like to write and then you go back and title it later? Or do you know what it's about as you're writing it?
Never. I never know anything. I just know the process. Sometimes the titles come first. Sometimes they're inspired by certain situations or certain happenings in the world or the world around me. Sometimes they're completed and I have no idea what I just wrote. So it's a varying thing for me. More than anything is I love the process. I'm like the runner who loves running. There's no destination. I just love running, and the pieces I always say write themselves. I'm just a vessel, Yeah.
Interesting. So the album is called Black Book. How did you come up with the name Black Book for it?
Yeah, well, there's this movie called Green Book, and it's starring Mahershala Ali and Viggo Mortensen, and it's the story of Don Shirley and how he had this trailblazing spirit to take music to the Deep South at a time where it was not safe for him to be performing or even be in the Deep South. Wow. So the story is he hires an Italian gangster or a mobster to be his tour manager. And it's a very incredible story, a great movie. If you haven't seen it, please see it. It's
Yeah.
called
Okay, I will look it up. I haven't had a chance to see
yeah,
it.
it's so good. And I was just so inspired by this movie that I felt that this was an opportunity to continue in that tradition and carry the torch forward. And that's how we got the title Black Book.
Yeah, carry the torch and trailblazing.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now you also have Black Book Deluxe. Is that a different album, or does it have additional elements? What's the difference between Black Book and Black Book Deluxe?
Okay, so Black Book Deluxe was created after I finished Black Book. We got in touch with this amazing poet. Her name is Lauren Della Penna. And over a conversation, I said, Lauren, I want Black Book to have a twin sister. Mm-hmm. And she started writing poetry like I have never seen anyone in my life. We had so many really in-depth conversations about each of the pieces, their titles, their inspiration, their energy, the things that inspire me. So much about, each piece in itself. And she would go away and come back in like 2 weeks, and she would have these amazing poems.
Wow.
So Black Book Deluxe adds a little bit more context to the Black Book album. And it reads as poem, song, poem, song, poem, song.
Okay.
So, it just has the literature kind of in between.
Wow. That's a neat format, because then you can have the Black Book with the purely music, and that music speaks to you in its own way without words, and then with the words, the text, then maybe just giving a little different twist to it. Yeah. So that's
and
really
I heard you're a poet as well, so.
Oh gosh,
I
attempt sometimes to compose and write things, but
yeah,
it's a journey for sure.
Yeah.
I did also want to ask about. I saw that you had an Earth to Outer Space duet. Was that a couple years ago? When was that?
That was last year.
Last year. Okay. Yeah. How did this come about?
So my wonderful manager also manages astronauts, which I didn't know that astronauts have managers.
Nor did I.
But they all do. And just so happens that Michael Lopez Alegria has become a good friend, and he was commander for the first what am I trying to say? Like the first mission, commercial space mission, and called the AX-1. And he sent me a text one day and said, I really like that song Stars. Can you send it to me? I'll put it on the playlist as we, go into space. Mm-hmm. And I guess a couple weeks later, he doubled down and was like, you know what, let's make a moment. And can you teach me a bit of this piece, and I'll play it on the International Space Station, and we'll do a duet with me there and you here in Cape Canaveral, Florida, and we'll make a whole moment out of it. So it became the first duet ever played between me on Earth and an astronaut in orbit.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. How cool is that?
Yeah, it was super cool, because I'm a space nerd anyway, so this was right up my alley.
That's special.
Yeah.
I've also seen a lot of different TikTok videos of you. You have a very fun, witty, lighthearted side to your music and moments too. What draws you to the TikTok platform? Is there a specific audience that you are communicating with, or just having fun and messing around?
I think it's a lot of just having fun. Like, I mean, I love to do these covers, and then just kind of show how illustrated so much of our music is connected, how much classical music and hip hop and R&B and pop music are completely connected. It's all the same stuff. I mean, essentially it's the same rhythms, it's the same chord progressions, it's the same theory, it's the same scales and arpeggios and everything. And I just really like to show and illustrate how much I always say, hip hop and classical music are first cousins. We don't think that they communicate and talk to each other a lot, but they're first cousins,
Yeah.
as well as, you know, classical music and pop music. They're all related and definitely in the same family. And I just love to have fun and kind of illustrate that for people.
Yeah, I love to hear how you're building bridges across
Yeah.
genres because they're, like you say, very, very closely related.
Yeah.
So I saw that you have an at-home concert series. Is that a virtual thing, an in-person? Can I book you for my next birthday party?
Absolutely. You can book me for your next birthday party. It's in person. To me, being in a room with people is one of the things we missed during the pandemic. And like for me, that was always the kind of hand-to-hand combat experience is just the best for me. Like I love being in a room with people. So yeah, that's part of the whole thing is you can book me in your home if you have a party or just want to do a listening session or just want to invite some friends over and
oh, that's so good to know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, we've turned a new leaf to 2023. What are some of your upcoming projects? What can fans expect to hear from you in the near future? Okay,
so I am currently on day 42 of my new album.
Oh,
so we're doing the same
exciting.
process and every day sit down and write something every day. And the new compositions are absolutely incredible. Like, honestly, wow. That's all I can say. Wow. I can't wait for people to hear this music.
Oh my gosh. That sounds amazing.
As well, I'm working on a chill mixtape, which is a little bit scaled back, just kind of like a very relaxed sort of way of listening, definitely for more passive listening, which was really cool to do. There's 5 tracks for that. Which was part of this process, part of the 42 days. So I paused from writing the main album to, focus on the chill mixtape, and that should be coming out soon.
Yay!
Yeah, so
that's so exciting. Well, we can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're a busy guy, so I won't keep you too much longer here. But what would you say if you could give maybe one pearl of wisdom to beginning musicians? What would you advise them?
Beginning musicians, I would say be patient with yourself.
Okay.
Take your time. This is something that does not happen overnight, as you know, as being a studied pianist. It does not happen overnight. It's very slow progression.
Yeah.
What you learn today may not stick today. It may stick, 2 weeks from now. Who knows?
Right.
So be patient with yourself. And another thing I would always say is stick to who you are authentically. Who I am authentically is a kid from the west side of Detroit. And I can't, a hip hop, pop, R&B kid from Detroit, I can't not be that. So if you see me on stage and I'm not in a tux and tails, I'm in Nikes and my jeans and my gold grills, then that's just who I am, and I would say that for everyone that's coming up behind me. I think one of the things that we're missing in classical music is more authenticity from people. I think there has been a quote unquote format and everyone has followed the format, which I don't disagree with it. I believe that as we move forward, the more authenticity we can inject into this music, the better it will make it for all of us and more enjoyable it will become.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you.
I have been speaking to BLKBOK, the sensational neoclassical pianist from Detroit, also composer, and he's making waves in music in our community. You got to check out his albums, BLKBOK and BLKBOK Deluxe. It sounds like also in the coming year, we have some exciting things to look forward to from him as well. So definitely look him up, BLKBOK, BLKBOK. This is Classical Conversations on FM 91. Thanks, BLKBOK.
Thank you.